A tragic accident has left a young woman without a face. While she's forced to wear a blank, expressionless mask, her brilliant surgeon father begins hunting other young women with the hopes of removing their faces to make his daughter the perfect replacement face. In a highly divisive and somewhat repulsive horror film of its time, 1960's Eyes Without a Face. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Austin Johnson.
And this is Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. I'm joined today by the only member of this team who revels in tackling a French New Wave horror film that does not consider itself a part of the French New Wave. Welcome back to the Filmgazm podcast, Austin.
Yeah, it's been a while. Last one I was on, I think, was Thief, Michael Mann's Thief from 1981. So it feels like I only come in when it's something right up my alley.
There's certain films that, like, I know Caleb's not going to like it. I know Colton's not going to like it. Josh is gone for the moment. I need Austin.
I feel like Josh probably does like this movie a lot. This definitely combines some of his favorite things. So I feel like he probably digs it.
We've done so many of his favorite movies while he's been gone. It's really hurting him.
Yeah, he's gonna get back and be like, "I quit." Yeah.
Oh, he sent me he sent Caleb a list of like, these are the movies I want to do when I come back, and it was like just banger after banger after banger, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. So before we get started on Eyes Without a Face, I have 3 updates on the rewind. This first one updates one of our early episodes on The Omen. The long-awaited... Yeah, I know. I always love finding out new shit about The Omen.
Yeah.
The long-awaited prequel to the horror classic is finally ramping up production. It's titled The First Omen, creative, and has just cast Nell Tiger Free in an undisclosed role. She is known for her role as Myrcella Baratheon on Game of Thrones, one of the incest kids.
Okay. Okay.
Not very flattering, but you know, that's what happened.
That was her role on the show.
Legion and Channel Zero director Arkasha Stevenson is writing and directing. Plot is undisclosed as of now. It's really early, so there's no release info, but they've been trying to get this movie off the ground for quite some time. The Omen is, an IP that hasn't really gotten a lot of attention in a long time since that Damien show was canceled. So here's hoping. I mean, the first one was a fucking masterpiece, so good luck recapturing that magic. But, I'm willing to see someone try.
Yeah, me too. I obviously huge fan of that one as well. Then the 2000s one just kind of came and went and happened. So it would be nice to kind of get that taste out of our mouths and have a proper, maybe it could be like what happened with Halloween with these new David Gordon Green Halloween movies. Maybe they'll like actually do something neat and give it new life. I'm cool with that because I don't think a lot of young people like really dig The Omen from '76. I think it's like one of those, if you know, you know. Certainly people who are like around at that time are like, yeah, that was like one of the better horror films of the '70s. But it would be cool to kind of give it a new fan club, new blood.
Well, The Omen definitely requires a certain amount of patience, a certain amount of appreciation. It's not just, all in your face. It's really like you got to imagine quite a lot of the fear.
Yeah.
And you don't see that a lot these days. These days, a lot of horror is just like, if I don't see guts in my face in 5 minutes, I'm walking out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true. And I'm somewhere in between. I'm okay with things flying in my face, but I like methodical stories.
Yeah, I just want a good movie. That's at the end of the day. That's all I want.
Yeah, do it well.
Yeah. Next up, didn't expect to hear about this. This one updates our episode on the 2014 ghost movie Last Shift, a movie I never thought I'd ever be talking about again. One of our random picks I did with Josh, and we were both kind of like, yeah, all right. So that doesn't make for a great episode. When we're both just like, it was okay. And you got to stretch that into an hour.
You didn't hate it, but you didn't love it. So it just was there. The Last Shift.
Yeah. And apparently there's a remake of the movie in the works from the film's creator, Anthony de Blasi, who is once again writing and directing. So he's remaking his own movie. Even he was like, it was all right.
Wait, and this movie from 2014?
Yeah, it's not. It has not even been 10 years.
Yeah, what the fuck? That yeah, I don't like that. Like maybe wait at least 2 years, so yeah, you get the full decade, under your belt.
Yeah,
And like, who's asking for this?
literally nobody. I don't get it. Split actor Jessica Sula will star. I think she played one of the girls who got eaten by the beast.
Okay,
And the film is set for a 2023 release, so this is happening quickly.
yeah, so they're going for 9 years in between the original and the remake. Yeah, good.
The
Can't
original
wait.
from 2014, the ghost movie that like 8 people saw.
Two of them being you and Josh.
Yeah, I never thought that movie would come back into my life again, but I guess you know what? I got to do an anniversary episode now.
Yeah. Oh boy, buckle up.
And this next one's really cool. This one updates our episode on the 2007 Halloween anthology flick Trick or Treat.
Mm.
Love that movie. The cult favorite horror movie that never got its day in theaters is finally getting a theatrical release for this Halloween season. Trick or Treat will be playing in select theaters around the country starting on Thursday, October 6th. I looked and saw that it is playing near me, so I will definitely be going to see this on the big screen. I'm so glad that this movie's finally getting a chance to be shown theatrically.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I had no idea. No, that's the coolest news that I of those three. It's exciting.
Yeah, Omen prequel, Last Shift remake, Trick or Treat's coming back to theaters. Yeah, that's definitely the winner.
Trick or Treat coming back to theaters. It's what you're gonna get. It's not gonna fuck anything up. It's just cool that it's getting new life. That's great.
Well, I'm hoping it makes a significant amount of money so that interest in a sequel is finally renewed because I know Michael Dougherty's been trying to do that for a long time.
Yeah, I've always thought Trick or Treat would be, in the right hands. Doherty could like do his own thing. I've always thought it'd be a great, anthology, like a HBO Max series or something like that. You could like really, really dive into it. Give it 6 or 8 episodes. That's it's just perfect for that.
Yeah, it feels like what Halloween Season of the Witch wanted to be.
Mm.
And kind of the spiritual successor to Carpenter's initial vision. And I think that might be why I like it so much.
Yeah, I dig that one a lot. That's definitely. I feel like that's a movie that everyone in Filmgazm kind of agrees on. It's just kind of like one of those random staples that we have.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's all for the rewind. So to start things out, I've got a question.
Oh boy.
Over on this show's older brother podcast, Oscar Sunday, we've covered a number of 60s films and a few French films, notably Francois Truffaut's Day for Night and Costa Gavras' Z.
Yeah.
But this is our first foray into French horror. Do you think, like, as a fan of French film, I know that through your exploration on the Criterion channel, you've covered a lot of French films.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that there are specific elements of French filmmaking that lend itself to horror or make the horror specifically in Eyes Without a Face more shocking or disturbing?
Oh, that's a good question. Dang, I like that a lot. When I was watching it and I was reading about it, like right after I finished it, I always do that if I really like something. I really really like this movie. Felt like I should have seen it years ago type thing. Where it's like, oh, this is perfect. This is right up my alley. It's very eerie to start, and like the middle of the movie gets really fucking weird and really scary, and from there on out, it's just kind of like a nasty, nasty ride. Boy, I like that question a lot though, because I think that generally people in Western Europe were kind of not into this when it first came out. That it kind of was a flop type thing. It took different cultures to kind of be like, hey, this is actually really fucking good. Definitely, here in the States, and definitely has like a big fan club in parts of Asia, Japan, and China. They embrace this kind of a movie. I don't know. I wish I had seen more horror films that are French, but most of them seem to be doing something completely different, especially from this time period. Like you said, the French New Wave, guys like Godard and Truffaut are going nowhere near this kind of scary, scary shit.
Well, I also think that, any horror films coming out of Europe post World War II are going to be influenced by the chaos and destruction of World War II.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of evil and monstrous humanity and just nastiness that you never saw in film prior to that because we didn't know that people were capable of that.
Ah, great. That's a great point, and it continues to escalate as we like realized how many. I realized, of course, like you said, World War II, but even it's easy to make a movie like the new one, Black Phone. It's easy to make a movie like that, a guy who steals kids and like kills them, because like that's been happening for decades now. Now we have documentation of it, and you're able to kind of like, okay, well this happened or this happens,
Yeah.
and so it can become a part of the genre that we both love, which is really scary, but that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, horror comes from nightmares, but also from reality sometimes. I
Yeah.
always like to see like the difference between the European boom in film post World War II and the American, because the American boom in film was very much like a boom in patriotism, very much a lot of cowboy movies, a lot of war movies.
Yeah.
We did it, we beat them. But in Europe, it's picking up the pieces and
Yeah. Yeah.
like showcasing the monstrous side of people. Like Eyes Without a Face reminded me so much of Joseph Mengele, just
Yeah. Yeah.
the monsters of the camps and the unnecessary psychotic surgery they were doing on Jewish people. I wonder if this
Mm.
movie, because it was based on a novel that came out in '59, I got to think some of that inspired the idea of a guy literally kidnapping women and carving off their faces.
God, yeah, that scene, man, was like fucked me up. I loved it though. I couldn't look away watching that scene when he's like pencil, staple, yeah, just
I
fucking
kept thinking like he's not gonna, like, we're not gonna see this. No, there's no way. And then we kept seeing
yeah,
more, and I'm like, holy shit, we're gonna see this.
yeah, yeah. And I remember I texted you just kind of like, man, what a cool 1960 kind of double feature with Psycho, because Psycho is operating under completely different rules of you can't show certain things. So you have the great shower scene. This movie was like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we're gonna show you like right here, right in front of your face. You're gonna watch this lady's face come off, and it was frightening. It was the black and white, the blood just oozing out like really thick was like super effective.
Yeah, I kept thinking like, what? Where was this? Like, why? Can you imagine if the American sensibilities were as unrestrained as the European sensibilities during the evolution of film? The insane shit we would have gotten in the 20th century. It's like we're wearing a fucking like car boot on our culture.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff like and stuff that I like. I don't want to just shit on it, but like From Here to Eternity, it's just like your typical post World War II. Like, this is how we're gonna figure things out. It's not until the late '60s or '70s, post French New Wave, that we over here are like, hey, let's have fun now, and let's like do weird stuff. And now where we're at, and I couldn't be more grateful for like this period of filmmaking, because not just the French New Wave, but like this movie. I recently watched, when we did Woman in the Dunes on Oscar Sunday. I watched a movie called The Face of Another, also by Hiroshi Teshigahara, and it's so similar to Eyes Without a Face, and that's 1960 to 1966. French and Japanese, like, and they're totally like holding each other's hands, and it's really cool. Really cool, and it makes me want to watch more genre stuff, because I've kind of watched a lot of French stuff, but I've kind of watched what I'm supposed to, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't go to school for movies or for film, so I've been doing that the past few years on my own, trying to like knock off the Contempt and A Woman is a Woman, Le Petit Soldat, and Breathless, those Godard movies, and Truffaut. Like, I didn't have a chance to get exposed to those properly, so I had to like do it myself. And now I'm at the stage where I'm pretty comfortable, and I found what I like, and I want to watch more weird shit from that era.
Yeah, you did it the Tarantino way. You didn't go to film school, you went to films.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I also dropped out of high school.
that's yeah, I think finding it on your own, there's something special to that. There's not some teacher telling you like, this is the movie you need to watch to understand all of this.
Well, I
It's
wouldn't have I wouldn't have liked it if I were 18 and someone's like, "Here's Contempt." I would have been like, "This is boring and dumb." but because I kind of found it in my own, I do like it. And I have found a niche or whatever. And I still just a couple nights ago I watched The Gleaners and I, a Agnes Varda movie. She's one of the greatest French speaking contributors to film of all time, and that documentary blew my mind. And so like I'm like, okay, I've kind of done the beginner thing. I wanna go ahead and like dive in, and Eyes Without a Face is perfect for that.
Yeah, good timing on all of this.
Yeah,
Uh,
worked out. Yeah, worked out great.
I haven't seen a lot of French film. What I've most of what I've seen has come mostly because of you and Oscar Sunday. Um, but there is this, this surrealness about French film that I think lends itself to horror in a very unique way.
For sure.
And I think there's something about Eyes Without a Face with those kind of French film techniques. It makes it feel like a waking nightmare, and
Yeah.
that's a really cool vibe that I want to see more of.
And the my favorite thing about this era, these guys, is the pace, like the sheer pace of these movies. And Eyes Without a Face, it's an hour and a half, and it's before you know it, you're like, holy shit, it's over, and like the ending is so cool, and you're just kind of you're you're not what's the word? It doesn't like weigh on you. You watch the movie, and I think a lot of these guys of this era are very much like, let's just make a bunch of movies, and they don't have to be these long drawn out fucking Ben Hur like whoa like that kind of stuff. Like it's very much its own pace. They don't waste a lot of time. Like there's not a lot of shots of mountains, and like look at the American flag or something like that. It's very very choppy, very pacey, and like just get to the next scene, get to the next scene. And I love that about it.
Well, I think a lot of that is it goes back to what you're saying about you finding these films on their own. A lot of these guys didn't go to film school either. They picked it
Yeah,
up as they went along. They saw movies they liked. They took techniques that they figured I could probably do that. Like I know Jean-Luc Godard just like put up a camera in a French street to film Breathless. Like he didn't have permits. He didn't have a cinematographer. He's just like, let's shoot
correct.
this. And when you do that, you're not going to have a lot of time to shoot mountains.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, it's action. Yeah, it's like people crossing the street is like more interesting. Get from point A to point B, and I love both. I love drawn out shit that's like really long and like rewards you for like sticking with it. But I do love like this kind of just seamless, just bam, 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 bam. Like let's get to it. Like one of my favorite examples of that is Cleo from 5 to 7, Agnes Varda's movie. It's an hour and a half, and it literally takes you from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Like bam, 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 bam. So you're seeing like a window in someone's life, like an important window, but it moves like nobody's business, And I love that movie too, and it's just cool because I'm not used to seeing that with what I grew up watching. It's just not the same.
In my sophomore or junior year of college, I took an honors European film course and I neglected the shit out of it. I didn't care. There was no like, there wasn't any tracking of the movies. I didn't have to write any essays about the movie. So I was just like, well, why should I watch anything? And I didn't. And
Man,
I regret
man.
that so much.
Okay. So that's. I mean, sure. That's like, how old were you?
I was like 19, 20.
Okay. So, and you're saying there was no track, like no one was like, all right, let's like document what you're doing.
No, we would
Like the
have like a
teeth.
conversation the next class, but you didn't have to talk if you didn't want to. He didn't have like there was no pop quiz or anything. There was no way to tell whether or not you watched the movie unless you wanted to contribute to the conversation. And then the first movie we watched was Breathless, and I was like, "This is what it's going to be." I
Yeah, yeah.
I remember specifically not watching Cleo from 5 to 7. That was on our list, and I was like, "This sounds boring. I'm not going to watch this."
Yeah, yeah,
I,
that's crazy.
I regret
That's
that so much.
yeah. Well, I would have done the same thing at 19. I was like, I want to watch The Town and Shutter Island, and like shit that I know that I'm like aware of. I want to watch Scorsese movies and Tarantino.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever at that age like, I wonder what these guys were doing over here. That's come now more in my life, and just a curiosity, and kind of the documenting thing is huge for me. with Letterboxd and with being able to write reviews on Filmgazm and talk about them on the podcast is like there's a reason to like put them in my bag and like put that knowledge there. And along the way, you find things you actually connect with, and that's like the whole point for me is like learning and also bringing something to a conversation.
Oh, I agree entirely. Without this podcast, there's hundreds of movies I never would have watched.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have them and just in here ready to bring them out in case of emergency.
Yeah, and that's like one of my favorite things. And I also love when people ask you like, "Have you seen this?" And you're like, "I just watched it last week," or like it just happened actually. And
Yeah.
I love that feeling because this movie, Eyes Without a Face, I have a friend. Her name's Jackie. She messaged me and was like, "Hey, have you seen Eyes Without a Face? I know like you're into like that kind of older horror stuff." And I was like, "Actually, I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it." And I was like, "But I am doing it on a podcast soon." She's, "Oh, you're gonna love it." She was right. Shout out to Jackie. Good job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That was a fun conversation. I'm glad. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I love it. Criterion has completely changed my life, and uh, it's only been around for a few years, and I'm like so grateful that I've been on the train pretty much the entire time. It's been a streaming service, and every time that $11 goes out of my bank account, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I get so much use out of it every month. So much. Like I watch on average probably 10 to 12 movies on that service only per month, and that's well worth it. About $1 per movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have that channel, you'd have to buy those movies individually, and that's 20-30 bucks a pop every time. So yeah, you're getting your money's worth.
Correct. Yeah, and I do love buying those. Right, they're real pretty. The Criterion editions. The Criterion of Eyes Without a Face is gorgeous. And I of course want to own them, but yeah, I mean, $35 is steep.
Yeah, it's a occasional treat kind of thing, but with the channel, you have just so many more opportunities to watch these.
Yeah, they're just there. It's crazy. I'm in the middle of watching a movie from Taiwan, a Taiwanese movie called Yi Yi that I've never seen from 2000. And like I like halfway through, and I'm like, oh my god, this is one of the cooler movies I've watched the past couple of weeks. It's like that happens over and over. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, with that, let's talk about the production of Eyes Without a Face. How did this thing come about?
Yes.
It was based on the novel of the same name by Jean Redon, which was first published in 1959. And I can find absolutely no more information on this novel. It is wildly out of print.
That sucks.
At least in the United States. I think you can get some French copies, but I'm not going to learn how to speak and read French just so I can read this.
Yeah, no, me neither. But I would love to see what this book's about, see how close it is, because this is just a really, really intense and intriguing story.
It was wild how I had to. IMDb is the only place it had the published year of the book. I couldn't find anything. It's weird. Also, every Google search kept bringing me to Billy Idol's 1983 hit single "Eyes Without a Face," which was featured on his album Rebel Yell. So that's no help.
Yeah. When you type in "Eyes Without a Face," like that's what comes up first.
And that song was inspired by this movie. It's the amount of pop culture that was influenced by Eyes Without a Face is quite staggering. We're going to talk about that towards the end of this segment, but it's just wild what wouldn't be without this.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite things about it is it's like it's still cool. The movie is like exclusive in a way that, and I hate to just compare it to Psycho, but that's like such an easy because they came out around the same time. Psycho is like referenced nonstop, almost too much. It's almost like when a song on the radio just keeps playing and you're like, I get it, it's good, but I love Psycho to death. But this movie's like the cool one that's not on the radio, but people still love it, and people will still reference it in their songs or TV shows or movies or whatever. And it's kind of like for the people, and I really like that about it.
That's a nice analogy. I like that too. Eyes Without a Face was one of the first French horror movies, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And it was the brainchild of producer Jules Bourcon, who bought the rights to the novel and offered the directing gig to Georges Franju, one of the founders of Cinématique Française, a French nonprofit film archive established in 1936 in an effort to protect French film from the invading Nazis during World War II, who were trying to burn every piece of art made prior to the establishment of the Nazi Party. And these guys dedicated themselves to saving as much French film as they could, which is admirable.
Extremely. There should be a movie about that.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah.
So Franju didn't see the film as a horror movie. He saw this as a story of human anguish. So he played up that angle. His biggest problem was getting the film past European censors, who weren't quite as puritanical as the American Film Production Code, but they still had their own standards. You know, they crossed the entire world. In any place that had a film community, you couldn't really just make whatever you wanted to make. There were guidelines.
Yeah, and God, it's so fascinating that like a group of people would be in a room and be like, no, that like people can't see that. Like there's censorship people. They sit in a room and fucking like just roast movies and are either like, yeah, this is okay for kids to see or it's not okay. There was a movie called Censor from last year that I really, really liked. I think it was on Shudder, and it was about a girl who worked for like a censorship company. It was really, really cool. It was like a gritty horror movie, and I like that a lot. I've always been fascinated by like, okay, so if you say you and I are working for a censorship company, who censors it from us? like because I mean it's still going into somebody's brain, and if it goes in my brain, what's worse, going into my brain or the person that's going to pay for the movie in the audience? So it's like, what are we doing here? Like censorship's such an odd thing with movies.
Well, and it's never uniform. It always depends on the person watching it. What I find horrifically offensive, you might not find offensive at all. And if I'm the one screening the movie, I'm going to cut out some stuff that might not need to be cut out because I disagree with it. It's crazy. Like that happens all the time.
Ugh. Yeah. It's weird. It's just a weird kind of thought process, and I like reading about this, and that it had to go through certain hoops to get made and get to go out there and be seen by people.
Yeah. Well, this is what so Bourcon, the producer, he urged Nanju to tone down the blood because that would upset the French censors. Leave out the tortured animals because that would upset the English censors. And leave out the mad scientist character because that would upset the German censors. So basically it was like, you got to cut all this shit because it's not just, one per country. It's all of Europe it's like a United Nations of censorship.
Yes. Yeah. UNC. Yeah.
Ironically, all three made it into the movie and are prominently shown. So Anju was like, no.
or there's a version of this movie that's insane.
That dude, there's an X-rated Eyes Without a Face out there that just like fuck people up.
Yeah, and I'm down. Yeah, because like people, there's Franju. There's like a really cool line that I found. I was reading about it. It premiered in Scotland. Did you read about this?
Yeah, I've got that coming up.
about oh, that's why Scotsmen wear skirts.
God,
so good.
I mean, on some levels, like if you've never seen anything like this before and now you're watching it, like we saw this when we did Night of the Living Dead about a month ago. Like if this is the first time you're seeing shit like this, you're not going to know how to comprehend it. You're going to overload.
Yeah, it's obviously we kind of don't care. Like there's not a lot of censorship going on here at Filmgazm. And it's because we all feel the same way and we're always talking to each other. You just forget how many people are out there who are just like, just don't do it. They're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to watch someone's face get cut off. I don't want to watch someone get, cut down by an axe. Like there's people who just don't want to do that. And it's hard for us to understand because we're always talking to each other and like this is like our favorite stuff. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like we probably sound crazy to those kind of people who are just like, no, like I have a good friend who I like really cherish our movie relationship, my buddy Matt, and he like just does not do horror. Like he just is like, no, I just can't do it because he's been fucked up a couple times and he doesn't want to do that again. And I get it, but it's just sad, because it's like you're not just taking away a genre, you're taking away a lot of subgenres and a lot of like really unique stuff.
That's just, it's like, don't you want to get fucked up by horror? Isn't that the goal? Like, I go to drama to
Exactly.
cry, I go to comedy to laugh, I go to horror to get scared. Like that's why you do it.
Yeah, yeah, I like those emotions. Like I'm like very much okay with it, and I like it. It's like a high. It's like a quick little. When you're watching the face get cut off. You're kind of like, mm-hmm. This
Yeah.
is my fill for the. This is my fix for the week. Yeah,
I had that moment of like I was looking at the TV and I kept thinking like I kept like getting closer, like zooming in, like there's no way. Like how are they doing that? Like it
yeah,
became as soon as the face came off, I'm like, oh, this is not the movie I expected it to be.
yeah. Yeah, same here. Just brutal, and yeah, there's other stuff later on. I'm sure we'll get to. That's great, but that's like the centerpiece of the movie is that operation, and you're like, wow, that raises the movie to like a whole other ranking for me.
So all right, so with Franju and his, no, I'm not censoring this thing and putting all the stuff in the movie. The trick was to change the perspective of the story. The novel is told from the perspective of Dr. Genesee. So it's the scientist's
Okay,
perspective. He changed the film's perspective to the daughter, Christiane. So that makes it feel a lot more sympathetic, makes him look like the bad guy and not the hero, which he very fucking clearly is. And it worked. Everyone signed off.
yeah, which is for movie's sake is like a genius. It's a genius thing to do because for a movie that's so like depraved, you do the ending is like okay, yeah, like she in a way got hers, like she did what she had to do right on her way out, and you got the nice little theme at the end of the movie, and you're like, hell yeah, good job, and if it were from the other perspective, yeah, we don't probably don't quite have that. Might be a little too fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. So, with all that, the film was released in 1960, and despite making it through the censors, it caused all sorts of controversy. During the film screening at the Edinburgh Film Festival, 7 audience members just fainted, leading
Yeah,
to the quote like, "Oh, that's why Scotsmen wear skirts."
yeah, it's fucking great.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's such a fucking conniving comment, but I think it's really funny. If I
I
were
wonder.
Scottish, probably not.
I wonder if like Franju and Borkan like saw the fainting, and I wonder if they thought, "Oh, we're fucked," or "This is going to be amazing." Like, what did they think at that point?
Yeah, because there's got to be. I've always wondered that about, especially about 50s, 60s, 70s horror movies. Are they thinking long term? Like the more fucked up this is, the longer it's going to last, and the more generations are going to be like, I need to go back and see what made people faint. Because we're like that. We're definitely like, well, if that made people faint, like I want to faint, or I want to see how far it can push me at least, And I mean that's why you watch Takashi Miike's shit. It's because you're like, how far can I go with my viewing experience as a horror fan? And I wonder if they were thinking that in their heads, like, are they thinking 30, 40 years down the line of, oh man, decades are going to go by, generations are going to pass, but the people who like it and were freaked out by it are going to pass it down to their kids or whatever, and it'll just keep living on. Because that's what's happened with this movie. It's gained a reputation, and people watch it now to see how fucked up it is. And like that's what's going to happen. 50 years from now, people are going to be like, we're going to be passing down Audition 1999 to younger people, like, hey, like see if you can handle this, and that's cool. There's like, it's messed up, it's deranged, but it's cool. Like, I'm not going to just say that to anybody on the street, but a horror fan, I'm like, you get it. You get that like drive that you have to see really wacky, fucked up shit.
Yeah, I agree. It reminds me very much of Back to the Future when Marty McFly is playing the school dance and he breaks into some heavy metal riffs and everyone's all freaked out. And he goes, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
long term.
Exactly. Yeah. I love thinking that way, or if people think that way in the present about, what's to come. Because just the movies sometimes takes forever for a movie to gain life. John Carpenter's career, it had to take decades to for people to really get it and to really latch on. And I like that. I think that's kind of unique.
I think the best filmmakers try to think in terms of decade, in terms of legacy, but you don't really ever know. I mean, you don't know if a film's going to be a masterpiece now or a masterpiece 20, 30 years from now. And the best films are both, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think there's something cool about a movie that rocks the movie world, and while it's in theaters and people are like, oh my god, you have to fucking see this, and then it continues to live on forever. That's really, really cool, but very hard to do. Like the movie, the recent movie that comes to mind that initially, the Avatar from 2009, people were like, oh my god, you have to fucking see this in theaters. So everybody went and saw it. It made ridiculous amounts of money. And now some people are like, that movie sucks. As time has gone on, I'm one of those people, I'm not into that movie. Looks cool, sure. But anybody can make something look cool for billions of dollars, It's not a good movie. And that's I would hate for that to happen if I were making something, if it didn't have that longevity.
Yeah. And it's weird because Cameron, for literally every other film he's done, he's got that longevity.
Yes. Yeah. I love half his shit, and the other half not for me,
Yeah. I don't know. I think of films that like one that I recently watched was Grease, 1978, which at the time blew people away. It was an instant classic. People loved it. John Travolta had a film career immediately. I watched it recently. Boring as shit, incredibly misogynistic, horrible movie. And even my family I watched it with, they several of them were like, oh, this is not what I remember.
Yeah.
So it is weird how sometimes a movie will be, great now and shit later, and shit now and great later. It's weird. It really depends on the culture of the time.
Yeah, I like one of my favorite exercises is to guess, from the past 2 to 3 years, to guess what is going to last. Which movies are actually going to stick around, and 40 years from now, people are going to be like, yeah, that was one of the best movies from 2019. I wonder about that all the time.
Yeah, that's what sometimes you can kind of tell.
For sure,
we're never going to stop talking about Parasite.
Correct.
But I think people have already stopped talking about The Irishman.
Exactly. Yeah. I think Joker made 50 times as much money as Parasite, but Parasite will live on forever, and Joker will just be oh yeah, most people that I know that I'm friends with are it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't great. I know very few people who are oh my god, Joker was just life-changing, Everybody that watches Parasite is yeah, I know. I know a couple. I just don't want to name them. But Parasite, I've never met anybody who's seen it who isn't holy shit, that, Oscar or not, that was dope. That was a really special movie.
Yeah, it was neat seeing that before the Oscars and realizing that at the time, oh, this is going to be something people are going to remember.
Yeah, one of the coolest Oscar ceremonies of all time. Yeah.
This is fun. So, Eyes Without a Face was released in America in 1962. And
I saw that. That sucks, right? 2 years later?
2 years later, it was dubbed over, completely re-edited, and released under the title The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus.
Yeah, good God, what a horrible title.
Even overdubbed, there is no character named Dr. Faustus in this movie. It's such a weird decision.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just not the 60s. We see a lot of stuff being held back, and it's unfortunate because there's some good quality filmmakers during that decade that just didn't have the freedom they deserved.
Yeah, mostly because, if it comes out in America and it doesn't meet our sensibilities, it's going to be chopped into something unrecognizable that's going to be quickly forgotten because everyone's just going to say, oh, that weird Faustus movie was shit. Let's move on. Not realizing
Correct.
what they're
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
The face transplant scene is almost completely gone. So,
Well, like, that just ruins the movie.
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I really like kind of the slow burn of it, but like if you don't have that centerpiece, like watching this guy do what he's been doing, we don't know how many women he's done it to. It's such an eerie, creepy, fucked up feeling, and like you have to have it. Have to have that. I can't remember many movies that I've seen recently where it's like you take that out, you take away everything. The dominoes start falling, and like it doesn't make any sense. It's so important to the movie.
Extremely. And ended up being part of a double billing with a Japanese American monster movie called Manster.
All right, Manster. What a great title.
Both films didn't fare well in America, and the horror chamber of Dr. Faustus quietly left theaters without much attention. So that was the end of Eyes Without a Face in America. It lasted about 3 weeks.
Jesus Christ, and if this movie came out now, like if it's fucking Jake Gyllenhaal playing the Doctor, you know what I mean? Like this movie would crush. People would love this shit.
Yeah. Well, if it comes out in America now, they would just remake it. Like that's how it works now. Foreign horror just gets remade in an American flavor and loses all of it.
Yeah, it usually loses its punch. Yeah.
Despite a lukewarm reception upon release in France and the United States, people never stopped finding this movie. In fact, it might be one of the most influential horror films of all time. For example, John Carpenter cited it as partial inspiration for the blank, expressionless look of Michael Myers in Halloween.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I definitely thought that right away when I saw her with the mask on. I was like, ugh, like that. There's no wrinkles. There's no like bone structure. It's just featureless.
It's so
it's Michael Myers. It's Michael Myers. Yeah.
It's simultaneously life and death on the same face. It's really freaky.
Yeah. And the eyes moving around, but nothing else is moving. It's just like such a weird feeling.
Yeah. The actress who played Christiane was amazing, just acting through her eyes. That was well done.
Yeah, I thought she was super, super effective. And did you realize that Alida Valli, the woman who plays Louise, is the woman from The Third Man?
Holy shit, I did not.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I know that name. Yeah, we just watched The Third Man like a couple weeks ago.
God damn. I don't plan any of this shit. This was a completely random pick from the book. Weird how it syncs up so well with our recent.
Yeah, it's insane. Her IMDb is like one of the coolest. Like her known for is The Third Man, Suspiria, and Eyes Without a Face. Like, fuck yeah.
She knew how to pick some scripts. She liked being part of Game Changers.
Yes, she did. Yes,
that's
the
cool.
the Italian actress. Yeah.
Another cool influence this film had. Pedro Almodovar has said his 2011 film "The Skin I Live In" was heavily influenced by Eyes Without a Face, which is pretty obvious if you know what that film's about.
Yeah, very clear. Yeah,
pretty cool stuff. That's really neat. Love that.
Yeah, these are big time directors who are paying homage to this film that has just been get passed down over and over.
Yeah, and of course, John Woo. This film heavily influenced Face Off, 1997.
Classic. God, I love Face Off.
It's the tendrils this film's reaching out with into every genre is so cool.
Yeah. And there's no. It's a game changer because it is one of those source movies that it's not pulling from anything else. It's its own like original thing from a novel. But as far as movies go, I would love to see a movie from the 50s or 40s that's like, hold on. This is really where it came from, because you just never know. You never know where people get influenced and inspired by.
Yeah, totally, man. In 2004, Eyes Without a Face was selected for the Criterion Collection, Spine number 260. The Blu-ray, which is available on Amazon for $26, comes with Georges Franju's 1949 documentary Blood of the Beasts, which is about the slaughterhouses of Paris. So you get 2 for 1 if you buy the Blu-ray.
Hell yeah, yeah. And it's on the Criterion Channel and HBO Max. Like it's very accessible.
Yeah, thank God. Eyes Without a Face has an IMDb score of 7.6, Rotten Tomatoes score of 98%. Critics' consensus reads, a horrific tale of guilt and obsession. Eyes Without a Face is just as chilling and poetic today as it was when it was first released. I agree.
Yeah. Well said. So like what's your, obviously we both were impacted by that centerpiece, but as the movie's starting, are you kind of like where were you at like first 20 minutes or so?
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like, oh, God damn it.
I know. Yeah, I figured. uh I just knew, I knew something crazy was going to happen because it wouldn't be what it is without that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm digging this. I liked the dumping of the body into the water at the very beginning of the movie. That's always like a great way to start a movie. You're like, who's this creepy lady? And that's when I was like, wait, that's the motherfucker from Third Man, and she's great. Louise was such a fascinating character, and when the whole pearl choker like subplot is so fascinating. I thought it was like a really good touch.
I thought it was amazing with this doctor, like how he's able to do a facial transplant so incredibly seamless. It's like that was a little unrealistic because like I've seen real facial transplants and like I'm glad people were able to have that, but they never look that incredibly seamless.
Yeah, it's this would be like the greatest doctor of all time. Yeah,
Yeah. It's worth a few bodies if you can do surgery like this.
yeah. I actually thought of the movie Ex Machina a little bit during this, just like someone who's like obsessed with like that craft of like recreating something. And of course, in Ex Machina, he's like, oh, I have like, you think it's one AI, you're like, oh no, it's like this guy's done done a few of these, and then when you have that realization in this movie, it's like another twist of like, oh, he's like been doing this. Like there's like women missing. It's like they're all him. It's all because of him. Fucker.
Get the right one. It's got to be just right. Ugh. Eyes Without a Face only grossed about $60,000 total.
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, but it's gone on to inspire countless filmmakers around the world. It is currently available to stream on HBO Max. So if you want to watch it, you can.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that fuck that $60,000. Like we're 60 years later, we're talking about right now. You know what I mean? Like people still give a shit, and that's, to me, that's what matters. Like money's gonna go away, but like your legacy can live on forever.
Yeah, box office gross means dick. It's all about what you were able to gather from it. So with that, let's talk some highlights of Eyes Without a Face. Right from the get-go, our opening score has this like dark circus vibe that makes you think like, what is this? Like, there's a lot of moments of like, is this like what is this? What am I watching here? And
which is a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's just watching Louise, like I love the body in the trench coat. Like I thought it was like some guy's asleep, or like she's driving her boss home and then she picks him up and dumps him in the lake. It's like, oh shit, yeah. This is body disposal.
She looks like she's done it before. Yeah.
Well, she later tells the doctor, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that is immediately just gone. Like she goes from there to like right back to murder with no qualms at all. I thought that was kind of funny.
Very funny. She's an interesting character study just on someone who does have the new face, and she could get her own movie, like completely from her perspective, just how fascinating she is, and great performance.
Yeah, for sure. I also love just how cold the doctor is. Like he's got to completely shut himself off in order to do what he's doing. Like he can't see these women as people or else he's a monster. To him, this is just, test subjects. It's got nothing to do with people. It's got nothing to do with, murder or sexual gratification. It's just, I need the face.
Yeah. And that's the mark of someone who has more evil in them than we can fathom. That's what makes him such a fascinating character, and like you want to continue watching him because like how much further is he gonna go? I don't agree with this guy, but this is like why you watch why you watch movies is like for villains like this.
Yeah. When he goes to identify the body and lies to them and says it's his daughter, and then the dad of the real victim is like, "Hey, like my daughter's still missing. Like, can you help me?" And he's like, "No, like I'm grieving in my own way. Leave me alone." Like, and you know
Uh,
that that doctor he killed that guy's daughter.
yeah, yeah, 100%. He just
And
said to his face, "I don't give a shit." Yeah,
what does he say? Like, it's odd for me to comfort you. Like, whoa.
yeah, yeah. What a dick. I love when he is confronted by reality. When like the cops show up and they're like, "Huh, like what do you got going on here?" And trying to get documentation from certain patients and whatnot. It was like really interesting to see that doctor get confronted with people who are like, "Hey, what's going on here?" It was a classic, like thrilling feeling that I got from watching movies forever. I love that feeling like more than most is when like the jig is up. Like what's going on here? I love that feeling of like these guys know and you know that they know and they know that and everybody's just kind of playing a game. I've like always been obsessed with that.
I was really drawn in to Louise's like capture plan and how she would vet the victims. Like she just drive around looking for a suitable face, and like the whole thing what she does to Edna is so sick and twisted and, inhuman. Just going up to her in the line of the movies and being like, "Hey, I got a ticket. You want to be my friend?" And she's like, "Sure." And then just becoming a part of her life to the point where she's willing to trust her to go look at a room at a country house, and that's all it was for. It's so horrible. Like, how do you do that to another human being? How do you just like needle your way into someone's life like that, only to just kill them?
Yeah, this is where I wonder what you'll think about this. Just because we did it again, we did it recently on Oscar Sunday. That's where I started thinking about Get Out a lot while kind of thinking about those themes and those kind of like that kind of context of this isn't a one time thing. This is like a practice. This is a game to them. And I just thought like, man, I wonder if Jordan Peele like saw this and was like, I can take that to a weirder place.
Yeah, 100% he did. I mean, we've seen with his three films thus far, we've seen just he is influenced by so much. He holds horror as sacred. So I'm sure
Yeah.
this has been on in his mind for quite some time. I wouldn't be surprised if that aspect of Get Out came out of this.
Yeah, just the operation, like it's like there he's a doctor, like the father is the doctor in the same way that this guy's a doctor in Eyes Without a Face. So it's like an interesting, just I don't think people have talked about that. Like it's not on the nose, so people haven't been like, but I was like, I mean, he's cutting people's heads open and changing their brains.
This might be reaching, but also like Stephen Root is after Daniel Kaluuya's eyes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, they made Stephen Root a blind guy, and I feel like that was intentional.
that's neat. Uh,
I love movies. Yeah,
just for the moment she gets the chloroform in her face and then passes out, and they just go pick her up and drag her to the secret lab. You're I just couldn't. I was so heartbroken for Edna. All she wanted was a place to stay. Like she thought she had a new friend.
Edna. Oh boy! And when Edna tries to escape, hits on the top of the head, bang, and it's like running away. Oh boy, that was an intense scene too. That gave me like that like boom 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 boom. My heart couldn't stop beating.
A roller coaster, only to end with her leaping out the fucking window.
That was like brutal, and that reminded me of a scene in The Lobster. Um, someone jumps out of the window and like one of those like smacks, and I was like, oh man, I've always thought that's like such a. I mean, it's terrible, but like it's such a visually stunning way to like use that for a character is like you know suicide is one thing, but like jumping out of a window and like that, like a body just hitting the ground is such like a gruesome image that like always sticks with me. So I was that scene was like super impactful for me. I was like, God damn, that was my heart was pounding during that.
Well, and the movie kind of lets you make up your own decision about whether or not that was suicide or it was an accident.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, like yeah, you're like, no, she fucked up. She tripped. You know, she was trying to get away. And it's like she happened to go through a window and she didn't know how high up it was. I don't know. It sucks.
Uh, yeah. At that point, you're thinking like they're gonna get away with this.
Yeah, you are. It's
Especially since in the next scene you
sad.
see Christian with Edna's fucking face.
God. Yeah, like they're just like, oh, makes our life easier. She just killed herself. You know, like that's how they were thinking about it. It's really, really, really sad.
And they hide the body in the mausoleum, which I thought was brilliant. That is a brilliant place to hide a body.
Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, man, if I ever need tips, if I'm ever going to go down this path, I've seen enough movies now to like have a good a good sense of what would work and what wouldn't.
I've thought about that too. I'm thinking like, movie buffs have got like they are probably really good at getting away with murder. Like if they
Yeah,
had to, they could cover that shit up so easily.
yeah, nerds, film nerds. Yeah, those are the guys you got to look out for. Us, God damn it. It's funny.
Um, the idea of the skin not accepting the donor and like rotting off was so vicious and grisly.
Dude, that
After
was
all
really
of that,
cool.
it doesn't even fucking work.
Yeah, like I liked when it showed her and you had the narration in the background, and it was like it was just like a still shot of her as it aged, and it just looked more and more fucked up and scary, and the eyes were like so just done, like fed up. Just she's like, I don't even care anymore, and like this is getting absurd. I don't have my own face. I can't, you can't do this. Like you can't fuck with science this way. And, like it was such an interesting. I loved that bit. I love that bit of the movie.
Well, I love when she has Edna's face and she's still not happy because she tells her dad like, "I look like somebody who kind of looks like me."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. She's done. She's like, fuck this, dad.
She has no sense of identity and she's just bogged down by the weight of her father's crimes because he's clearly not. Someone's got to take on this guilt.
Insane,
Oh,
insane.
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the face removal surgery scene because hot damn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
It's shown in grisly detail. You see everything, which is remarkable for a film from 1960. And it's just, I keep thinking like, is she gonna wake up? Or like, is she gonna, is somebody gonna stop this? But no, he slices around the whole face, around the eyes. You've got the like thick blood, probably with chocolate syrup or something around her face. And then like the forceps on all sides, like it was so meticulous.
And what like the creepiest parts to me, obviously, like the actual act was fucked up, but when he's like asking Louise to like wipe his brow because he's sweating, like this is like a psychopath. Like this guy's a freak, and
Yeah.
he's doing this as if he's like saving somebody's life, which she thinks he might be doing, in some weird fucked up way. But I was just like the like it's just he's just a normal surgeon here. Like that's how he's treating it, and the scissors kind of being all around were like was so creepy, and like propping the skin up. I was like, oh my God. It fucked me up, man. I definitely have been thinking about it all day.
Well, like those little moments where they put the scissors in and you'd see the skin like flip
Yeah.
up a little bit. I was like, what the fuck? How did they do this?
I was like, I'm not gonna eat for like 3 days. Yeah, this is taking my appetite.
And then they just peel it off and you just see her bloody muscles underneath. And I was like, no wonder people freak the fuck out in Scotland.
Yeah, I can't blame the Scots for that. It's messed up. It's completely bonkers. And again, 60 years ago, you got to put yourself in those shoes. You're just a normal Scotsman who's like, yeah, I just watched my Celtic football club get a win, and then you go see this movie, and you're like, oh my god, I don't ever want to watch movies again. I would get that. I understand that to an extent. I still think the skirt comment is funny, but like I would get it. I would understand if people were like disgusted.
Yeah, it's the same people who, when The Exorcist came out, were like, holy shit, this movie's possessed, because that was new to them. That was a
Yeah,
level of fear that had not yet been on film. You got to take that into account with these movies. It's at the time, like, this was the scariest movie of all time.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Like I've always wanted to make a tree of the scariest movie, like a movie tree, and it's like being like once the torch is passed, like what movies actually can have an argument for being one of the creepiest or scariest movies ever. I think for most people it's kind of up to like what they are freaked out by. But I do think there are movies like this that kind of no matter what, you're gonna be like, oh Jesus, this is this is fucked up. This is evil. And I like that. I feel like there's like a couple every decade that are like they're kind of like sacred to horror fans.
We're recording this on Tuesday the 6th, and tomorrow on Shudder, they're premiering a 101 Scariest Movie Moments miniseries.
Oh Christ.
It's going to be an 8-part series over the next 8 weeks, and I am so psyched because it's a spiritual sequel to Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments that I love. I've been waiting for a new one of these since 2004, and we're getting one, and it's curated by Shudder. It goes from all of cinematic history. It's got interviews with notable horror people. Definitely worth checking out. I recommend looking at that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely gonna need to do that. Because the Bravo thing is cool, but Shudder, like, that's really cool that they're taking that on. I'll keep my eye out for that for sure.
It'll be nice to watch that without having pop-ups for Real Housewives of whatever the fuck coming up like randomly.
uh, that's a great point.
Uh, so the cops make a deal with this shoplifter lady, which is hilarious and incredibly thoughtless. Just be like, hey, go see what's going on with this guy. And if he kidnaps you, we'll know he's the bad guy.
Great
Hopefully
plan.
we get there before the surgery starts.
Oh God.
Christ. And they don't. But Christian has a change of heart, kills Louise with a scalpel to the heart. Love that.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah. And then lets the girl go and just goes and sets the test animals free. And the dogs maul dad to death.
Yeah, I thought that was great too. Yeah, he's got all these animals that are like locked away, like they're hyenas or something, and then they're like, "Okay, we'll become hyenas for you. If that's what you want, we'll rip your ass to shreds." So yeah, that was great. The finale is super satisfying and still like profoundly evil in its own way. Of our I guess our hero, essentially, the daughter, being like taking matters into her own hands. And I always love when like a young girl is like, fuck all this. Men are stupid, like I've always like enjoyed that kind of like use in plots. It was like redemption, satisfying. It was cool.
Yeah. And ironically, the dogs, they eat his face.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Like that. Yeah. Like, how does it feel? That kind of thing, like that cinematic, what goes around comes around type thing. Karma's a bitch.
Yeah.
And when he's like, I've done so much wrong to perform this miracle, like, yeah, you this is not a miracle. You're going to hell.
Yeah. You're a monster who murdered a lot of people for
Yeah.
surgery that didn't fucking work.
Correct. So yeah, like the movie, it's sad. Like no one really wins. There's no like winner technically, or someone who walks away like, just learned my lesson. It's very much like, yeah, that was a very traumatizing thing all around.
Yeah.
Anybody who's involved, yeah, it sucks.
The movie goes on another 20 minutes. Like, I'm pretty sure Christiane like jumps off a bridge.
Correct. Yeah. She was like, I just had to like get that out of the way. Now I can go ahead and end things for myself. Yeah, that's how I see it. She was like, I have to do this so they don't continue doing it to other people, and then I'll move on myself. That's kind of how I, interpreted it.
Yeah, vicious.
Yeah, extremely. Not a fun fun movie. Like you said, we're recording this on the 6th on Tuesday night. I like to use Tuesday night as my move. Like it's not a movie you just want to throw on Tuesday night. After you get off work and you're having dinner with the kids or something, you don't want to just throw on Eyes Without a Face. You probably want to wait till you can kind of marinate in it and let it kind of pour over you and think about it, read about it, and then move on with your life. Because it's not just a random night thing.
That's true. That's true. Here are two Filmgazm facts for Eyes Without a Face, and both of these are fucking ridiculous. Number one, during the original release of the film, an English film critic for The Spectator was nearly fired for writing it a positive review, while the general critical reaction had been poor. One guy was like, I liked it. And they're like, the fuck you did. It's your job or you hated it. Like, wow.
I would love to be in the room for that. This guy's like, I actually thought it was pretty good. And they're like, what's wrong with you? He's like, no, like it was entertaining. I'm not gonna go out and do that kind of stuff. I just thought it was good.
That's what some people, when it comes to horror, it's like if you praise it, that means that you're okaying these horrific scenes of like, you have no problem with people getting their faces ripped off or murder or rape. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And if that were the case, that has to be, if that's a rule or if that's a thing, that has to go across every genre of movies. And so like Gladiator, like, no, I'm not cool with like people fighting for their lives. Like, I'm not cool with that. It's entertaining. It's fun watching Russell Crowe fuck some shit up, like that's fun for me. But do I endorse that kind of a lifestyle? Hell no. Like, are you kidding me?
It's fucked up that horror is the only genre that has to deal with that.
Correct. It really is. It's like it's the way like old white people, the way they look at like horror is the way they look at rap. They're like, like it just has it's rough around the edges, and I'm just like, I don't want to go into that. But if they hear like an old rock song that they like talking about fucking, they're like, this is great. Like, well, what's the difference there? You know what I mean? Like, I hear songs at my work. I work at a grocery store, and I'll hear songs that I'm like, this is about sex. If it were Snoop Dogg, people would be complaining.
Yeah.
That's just how like people are. That's how like our society is. That's how they are with horror movies. That's how people. I can't stand talking to those people. That like disregard this genre as a whole. It's stupid because yeah, think about the way people act in some comedy movies. Like, we shouldn't endorse that either. Then
Yeah, it's weird, and I can't. I hope this guy wasn't fired. But I bet if he did keep his job, he probably had to retract that review and say like, actually, I didn't like it.
Correct. Yeah, he had to adjust his sentences to make him look negative instead of positive, which is really sad to think about, because that review could have changed someone's mind about it. Or reviews can be, if they're read enough, they can be pretty massive.
Yeah, there might have been one guy in Stratford upon Avon who's like, I only watch films that are endorsed by this one specific critic at The Spectator.
Yes. Yeah, The Spectator. I read it every Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah.
Eyes Without a Face. I guess I won't be seeing that.
Correct. I'm going to tell everybody to just not bother. Yeah.
This next one, the initial release of the film was met with negative reactions from film critics. One French critic stated the film was, quote, in a minor genre and quite unworthy of director Georges Franju's abilities. Franju responded by saying that the film was his attempt to get the minor genre to be taken seriously. I like Franju. The more I read about him, the more I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah, I like this Franju guy. Yeah. That's a cool. He seems witty. He seems quick with his remarks, his comebacks. I like him.
Yeah. Well, with his work preserving, pre-World War II French film and his desire to use this film to like get horror more street cred, I I like this guy. Like this guy knew what he wanted. This guy knew what was important in his career. And regrettably, he didn't really do anything else of like as celebrated as Eyes Without a Face. But he made this.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. I was like, I mean, he does a movie the next year, Spotlight on a Murderer. Then he does a movie called Therese, and then Thomas the Imposter. I'm like, I'd watch him just out of curiosity.
Yeah, if I had that criterion, I might check out that Slaughterhouse documentary.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
I give the film an 8. I think for the most part, still holds up. There are some remarkably disturbing visuals in this film, and I cannot imagine what audiences in 1960 were thinking.
Yeah, I think an 8 is fair. I think it could go up, with multiple viewings. It's that kind of a movie. It's something I will definitely watch again. It's got a really good pace to it. It's only an hour and a half, and some iconic, creepy, freaky scenes. So, yeah, I'm on board with Eyes Without a Face. I'm definitely going to be telling people about it, telling my friends about it, because HBO Max has that really cool movie library, and people should put it to use.
Yes. I try to do the same. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can send us a message there at any of our socials, or you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. Check out our website, filmgazm.com, where we have reviews, articles, trailers of upcoming films, and all of our episodes of our shows. If you want to support the show through Anchor, you can click on Support This Podcast on your preferred provider. We appreciate it. Next week sees the release of a brand new Jeepers Creepers film in the form of Jeepers Creepers Reborn, the first without convicted sex offender Victor Salva at the helm. So to celebrate this new arrival, we're going back to the franchise with 2003's Jeepers Creepers 2, which sees a stranded high school basketball team taking on the fearsome creeper in a cornfield. It's been a minute since I watched Jeepers Creepers 2, but I remember really enjoying it back in the day. And Ray Wise of Twin Peaks is like the crazy farmer who's like, I'm going to fuck this thing up. So,
yes. Yeah, I haven't seen those movies in so long. I know you guys did the first one, obviously. I remember being really, really into the first one, like from 2001, 2002. So I can't remember one of those.
Yeah.
I remember being like, that was one of the first horror movies that I like saw, and I was just like, oh, this is really, really neat, and even if it doesn't hold up totally, like it's still fun to like have those like memories and those movies you can just kind of call back to. So that'll be fun. That's gonna be you and Caleb, I imagine.
Probably, yeah, but there might be a guest star or two. I'm gonna reach out to some people, see if they want in.
Nice, very nice.
Don't miss the epic letdown, The Dark Tower, on Fridays Beyond the Bad, and the 1982 horror masterpiece Poltergeist on Oscar Sunday.
Oh yeah. Yeah, God, I can't wait. 1982, cool year. So Poltergeist is obviously another like horror movie that we all like at Filmgazm. It's just awesome. A lot of cool stuff to talk about with that one. Was nominated, so we get to bring it over to that show, and we will be doing. It'll be Caleb, Connor, and myself, and we're going to be doing a 1982 draft. So it's gonna get dicey. it's gonna get intense over there, because there's a couple movies from 1982 that we're all gonna be going at each other's throats for, and not all of us can have the thing, so someone's gonna get it, and the other two are fucked. That's the kind of draft we're going into.
Nate, I'm gonna try to get brush up on some 1982 films, some classics I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I probably will too. We got a few days till we record that, so I'll probably try to watch a couple, at least 1982 movies. It's nice to use the show as an excuse to like watch stuff from a certain year and like gather more knowledge from that year. And yeah. 82 is a year I like, but I know there's some heavy hitters, especially some foreign movies that I haven't seen yet that I would like to check out.
Sweet, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Until then. Therapy and love always do a better job than serial murder and experimental surgery. Remember that, and keep watching movies.